Hollywood's golden age shimmers in our collective memory as a cathedral of glamour, crimson carpets, arc lights piercing the California dusk, stars whose faces could sell dreams to a depression-weary nation. But beneath that golden veneer, another force governed the studios and sound stages: fear. Not the manufactured terror of horror films, but something more primal. The fear of volatile temperaments, of careers destroyed by a single word, of genius so intense it could scorch everything in its path. These weren't merely actors who played powerful characters. They were powerful, and they knew it. Some wielded fear like a weapon, browbeating directors and terrorizing co-stars into submission. Others radiated an intensity so overwhelming that crews approached them as one might approach a live wire. Still others commanded respect through sheer brilliance, setting standards so merciless that colleagues trembled at the thought of falling short. Fear in old Hollywood wore many faces. It could be Bette Davis's volcanic eruptions on set, reducing grown professionals to nervous wrecks. It could be Robert Mitchum's reptilian cool, the sense that behind those hooded eyes lurked something dangerous and unknowable. It could be Kirk Douglas's relentless perfectionism, turning every take into a test of endurance. Sometimes fear meant physical danger, rumors of actual punches thrown, of drunken brawls that made insurance companies nervous. Other times it meant social annihilation, a star's power to end careers with a whispered word to studio heads. The studio system itself bred this dynamic. Actors under 7-year contracts were property, branded and marketed like soap. But the biggest stars discovered they could reverse the equation, becoming forces the studios themselves feared. That power intoxicated some, corrupted others, and drove a few to madness. What united them all was unforgettability, a presence so forceful that decades after their deaths, we still speak their names with a mixture of reverence and unease. Tonight, we're stepping behind the golden curtain to meet 12 old Hollywood actors who ruled through fear and changed the industry forever. Edward G. Robinson. Edward G. Robinson didn't just play gangsters. He invented the archetype that would define an era. When Little Caesar exploded onto screens in 1931, Robinson's Rico Bondello became an instant cultural phenomenon, a snarling embodiment of immigrant ambition gone murderous. That breakout role cemented Robinson as more than an actor. He became the face of Depression-era America's fascination with outlaws who took what the system wouldn't give them. But Robinson's fearsome reputation extended beyond the characters he portrayed. Colleagues quickly learned that his intelligence was as sharp as any Tommy gun his characters wielded. A polymath who spoke 7 languages and amassed one of Hollywood's finest art collections, Robinson had no patience for sloppiness or mediocrity. On set, his piercing gaze could reduce an unprepared scene partner to stammering apologies. Directors approached him with deference, knowing that his exacting standards and razor-sharp instincts for character could expose any weakness in the script or their direction. The authority Robinson commanded on screen bled seamlessly into his professional relationships. Younger actors found themselves treating him not as a colleague, but as a figure to be approached with caution and respect. His stature in Hollywood wasn't merely about box office returns. It was about the intellectual force he brought to every role, the sense that here was a man who could dissect your performance with surgical precision and find it wanting. Robinson never needed to raise his voice to dominate a room. His mere presence, informed by that formidable mind and those unforgettable eyes, was enough. In an industry built on illusion, Robinson represented something genuine and therefore dangerous. Real power, real intelligence, real authority that couldn't be manufactured by studio publicity departments. Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey Bogart emerged as the preeminent tough guy of the 1940s and 50s, but his fearsome reputation wasn't an act saved for the cameras. Behind the scenes, Bogart cultivated a persona of confrontational wit and acid-tongued honesty that made studio executives and co-stars alike approach him with caution. He had fought too long for stardom, years of playing gangsters who died in the first reel, to suffer fools once he finally reached the top. By the time High Sierra, The Maltese Falcon, and Casablanca transformed him into an icon, Bogart had developed a worldly, hard exterior that wasn't performance, it was armor. He drank heavily, spoke bluntly, and showed little interest in Hollywood's social games. If he thought a director was incompetent or a script was garbage, he said so, damn the consequences. His sharp tongue could fillet reputations with surgical precision, and his willingness to engage in verbal combat made him genuinely intimidating to those who preferred Hollywood's usual diplomacy. Crews learned to read Bogart's moods carefully. A sardonic comment could signal approval, but his silence meant trouble. He respected professionalism and loathed pretension, which meant that affected method actors and imperious directors found themselves on the receiving end of his contempt. Yet, this abrasiveness coexisted with fierce loyalty to those he respected, a code of honor as rigid as anything Rick Blaine might have lived by in Casablanca. Bogart's fearsome quality lay in his refusal to play the Hollywood game. In a town built on pleasant lies, he insisted on unpleasant truths, and that made him both respected and dangerous in equal measure. James Cagney. James Cagney brought the streets of New York to Hollywood, and he never quite left that scrappy, no-nonsense energy behind. When he smashed a grapefruit into Mae Clark's face in The Public Enemy, audiences saw something new. Not theatrical violence, but something alarmingly real, kinetic, dangerous. That coiled intensity became Cagney's signature, and it unnerved people. Here was an actor who moved like a boxer, spoke in staccato bursts, and seemed genuinely capable of the violence his gangster roles required. On set, Cagney's reputation for perfection bordered on intimidating. He was a consummate professional who knew his lines, hit his marks, and expected everyone else to match his preparation. Sloppy work earned his barely concealed disdain. He had fought too hard to escape poverty, and vaudeville to tolerate laziness now. His energy was exhausting. Directors had to keep up with a performer who could dance, fight, and deliver emotional complexity, all in the same take. The rumors about Cagney's fight scenes took on legendary status. Whispers circulated that he didn't always pull his punches, that extras had emerged from his films with genuine bruises. While largely myth, the stories reveal how thoroughly Cagney's on-screen violence had merged with his off-screen reputation. People believed he was capable of it, and that belief gave him power. Even during his gentler roles, the patriotic song and dance man of Yankee Doodle Dandy, that underlying toughness remained, a warning not to mistake the hoofer for a pushover. Cagney commanded respect through sheer, undiluted presence, the sense that this was a man who would never back down. Bette Davis. Bette Davis didn't rule Hollywood through charm. She ruled through volcanic talent and a refusal to be anything less than completely, terrifyingly honest. From Jezebel to All About Eve to Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, Davis brought an intensity that could scorch lesser actors right off the screen. But her fearsome reputation came from something deeper than acting brilliance. Davis had no patience for incompetence, no tolerance for studio manipulation, and absolutely no filter between her thoughts and her words. The stories of Davis's on-set eruptions became Hollywood legend. She fought with directors over interpretation, battled studio heads over roles and contracts, and made her disdain for weak co-stars abundantly clear. Her feud with Joan Crawford, immortalized decades later in Feud, exemplified Davis's terrifying force. Crawford might have wielded power through control and image, but Davis wielded it through sheer intimidation and refusal to back down from any confrontation, no matter how explosive. Contemporaries called her difficult. Davis called it professionalism. She demanded that everyone on set match her intensity and preparation, and when they couldn't, or wouldn't, her contempt was withering. Those famous eyes could communicate volumes of displeasure without a word being spoken. Directors learned to approach her with complete preparation because Davis would expose any weakness in the script or their vision with brutal candor. She respected talent and despised mediocrity, and she made those judgments loudly and publicly. Yet her fearsome reputation was inseparable from her genius. Davis terrified people because she cared more about the work than about being liked, and in Hollywood, that made her genuinely dangerous. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford constructed herself as carefully as any cathedral and ruled her domain with equally rigid discipline. Where Bette Davis was volcanic, Crawford was ice, controlled, perfectionist, and absolutely unforgiving of any deviation from her standards. From Mildred Pierce to Possessed to Johnny Guitar, Crawford brought an image consciousness that extended far beyond the camera. Every detail mattered, and her iron will ensured that every detail bent to her vision. On set, Crawford's perfectionism could freeze the air. She arrived early, knew every line, and expected everyone else to operate at her level. Crew members spoke of an almost military precision to her work habits. She controlled her image obsessively. The lighting had to be perfect, the angles just so, her costumes immaculate. Directors who challenged her found themselves facing not tantrums, but something worse: cold, calculated resistance backed by real studio power. Crawford had fought too hard to escape poverty and maintain stardom to let anyone compromise her carefully constructed persona. Her feud with Davis on Baby Jane showcased Crawford's particular brand of power, not explosive confrontation, but strategic maneuvering, weaponizing studio politics and image control. Crawford understood that in Hollywood, perception was reality, and she she manipulated perception with surgical precision. Colleagues described walking on eggshells around her, never quite sure what invisible standard they might violate. Later, her years as a Pepsi executive revealed the same corporate steel she'd brought to film sets. Crawford demanded loyalty and perfection in equal measure, and those who couldn't provide both found themselves on the outside looking in. Her fearsome quality was the discipline of absolute control. Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn was danger in a matinee idol's body, swashbuckling charm wrapped around something genuinely reckless and unpredictable. Captain Blood and the Adventures of Robin Hood made him Hollywood's quintessential romantic adventurer, but off-screen, Flynn's reputation grew darker and more complicated. His fearsome quality wasn't intimidation through anger, but through chaos. You never quite knew what Flynn might do, and that uncertainty made everyone nervous. The scandals that shadowed Flynn amplified his dangerous aura. In 1943, he faced trial on statutory rape charges involving 2 teenage girls. Though acquitted, the lurid testimony and media circus transformed Flynn from mere bad boy into something more unsettling. The phrase, "in like Flynn," took on darker connotations. Studios and co-stars now saw not just a hellraiser, but someone whose presence carried genuine legal and publicity risk. On set, Flynn's physical bravery sometimes crossed into recklessness. He insisted on doing dangerous stunts himself, and his hard drinking, legendary even by Hollywood standards, meant directors never quite knew which Flynn would show up, the charming professional or the volatile drunk. Insurance companies adjusted their rates. Co-stars learned to stay alert during fight scenes, knowing Flynn's swashbuckling wasn't always carefully choreographed. Yet this danger was inseparable from his appeal. Audiences sensed something genuinely untamed in Flynn's performances, a quality that couldn't be faked. He was Hollywood's beautiful nightmare, magnetic and menacing in equal measure, proof that the most dangerous thing about old Hollywood was sometimes the stars themselves. George C. Scott. George C. Scott brought to Hollywood something the industry found deeply unsettling: complete disdain for its machinery of self-congratulation. His fearsome reputation came not from volatile tantrums, but from something more fundamental, an integrity so uncompromising it bordered on aggression. Scott's intensity on-screen in Dr. Strangelove and Patton reflected his off-screen contempt for Hollywood's phoniness, making him genuinely intimidating to an industry built on pleasant fictions. Scott's defining moment of fearsome defiance came in 1971 when he refused the Academy Award for Best Actor for Patton. He didn't just decline to attend, he actively rejected the honor, calling the Oscar ceremony a 2-hour meat parade where actors were made to compete against each other like racehorses. This wasn't modest self-deprecation. It was a declaration of war against Hollywood's most sacred ritual. The industry recoiled. How dare someone reject what millions coveted? On set, Scott's scorched-earth honesty made directors and co-stars approach him with caution. He had no patience for vanity, no tolerance for unprofessionalism, and he delivered both praise and criticism with equally devastating directness. His intensity wasn't performative, it was cellular, the mark of an actor who took the craft with deadly seriousness and expected others to do the same. Crews described him as terrifying in his focus, as if he could burn through pretense with sheer force of will. Scott's fearsome legacy lies in his refusal to play the game. In an industry where everyone wore masks, he insisted on being brutally, uncomfortably real, and that made him Hollywood's most dangerous truth-teller. Kirk Douglas. Kirk Douglas didn't just demand excellence, he imposed it through sheer force of will. From Champion to Paths of Glory to Spartacus, Douglas brought an intensity that bordered on ferocity, and that ferocity extended to every aspect of production. As both star and producer, Douglas wielded genuine power in Hollywood, and he wasn't shy about using it. Co-stars famously describe working with him as walking on eggshells, never quite sure when his exacting standards would find them wanting. Douglas's fearsome reputation came from his relentless drive and volcanic temper. He pushed himself brutally hard and expected everyone else to match that commitment. Directors found themselves in constant negotiation with a star who had strong opinions about every aspect of production and the clout to enforce them. His steel-willed perfectionism could turn a film set into a pressure cooker, with Douglas as the force keeping the temperature unbearably high. Yet his most fearsome act was also his most honorable. When Douglas gave screenwriter Dalton Trumbo on-screen credit for Spartacus, he helped break the blacklist that had terrorized Hollywood for over a decade. This wasn't gentle advocacy. It was a direct challenge to the industry's most powerful forces, a gamble that could have destroyed his career. But Douglas understood power, and wasn't afraid to wield it, even against McCarthyite hysteria. That combination of ruthless standards and genuine courage made him both respected and feared. In Douglas's case, fear and admiration were inseparable, two faces of a driving force that wouldn't accept anything less than absolute commitment. Robert Mitchum. Robert Mitchum radiated menace, like others radiate warmth. With his hooded eyes, languid physicality, and air of barely contained danger, Mitchum became film noir's perfect embodiment, a man who might be hero or villain and wouldn't particularly care what you thought he was. But unlike many tough guy actors, Mitchum's fearsome quality came from genuine indifference to Hollywood's rules and expectations. He wasn't playing dangerous, he simply didn't care about the consequences of being himself. In 1948, Mitchum was arrested for marijuana possession and served time in jail. In that era, such a scandal should have ended a career. Instead, it amplified Mitchum's outlaw mystique. He refused to apologize, refused to play the repentant star, seeking redemption. His attitude seemed to be, "This is who I am, take it or leave it." Studios discovered they couldn't polish away his rough edges because Mitchum actively resisted polishing. He showed up, did professional work, and otherwise lived exactly as he pleased. On set, Mitchum's calm was more unnerving than others' explosions. He rarely raised his voice but radiated an aura that made people instinctively careful around him. Directors learned not to mistake his casual professionalism for pliability. Mitchum had clear ideas about his characters and a quiet but immovable resistance to direction he considered wrong. His refusal to project fake enthusiasm or Hollywood charm made him genuinely unpredictable, and unpredictability equals danger. Mitchum's fearsome legacy is the power of not giving a damn, a form of rebellion that made him untouchable because he'd already rejected everything Hollywood might threaten him with. Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando didn't just act, he detonated. When he appeared in A Streetcar Named Desire and On the Waterfront, something fundamental shifted in American cinema. Brando brought method acting's visceral intensity to the mainstream, and with it came a reputation as an unmanageable genius, a creative force so powerful and unpredictable that directors had to plan productions around his volatility, like architects designing for earthquake zones. Brando's fearsome quality lay in his absolute refusal to be controlled. He would rewrite dialogue, ignore blocking, and bring an emotional rawness that could overwhelm not just scenes but entire productions. Directors describe the experience of working with Brando in terms usually reserved for natural disasters, terrifying, destructive, but capable of creating something genuinely transcendent. His dedication to truth in performance made him contemptuous of theatrical artifice, and that contempt extended to anyone he deemed phony or uncommitted. By The Godfather, Brando's reputation for difficulty had become legendary. Stories circulated of his bizarre behavior, his refusal to memorize lines, his open disdain for the filmmaking process. Yet when the camera rolled, he delivered performances of such power that all the chaos seemed worth it. That was perhaps the most frightening thing about Brando. He proved that genius could justify almost any behavior, setting a dangerous precedent that would echo through Hollywood for decades. Brando's legacy is the terror of pure, ungovernable talent, the knowledge that some forces are too powerful to control, only to harness temporarily if you're very, very careful. Oliver Reed. Oliver Reed was Hollywood's ID unleashed, a drinking, brawling force of nature who seemed perpetually one provocation away from violence. Unlike actors who cultivated dangerous personas for effect, Reed's fearsome reputation came from genuine unpredictability. Producers greenlit projects with Reed knowing they were also greenlighting potential chaos, insurance nightmares, and the constant possibility that their star might end up in a bar fight or worse. Reed's drinking was legendary even in an industry where heavy drinking was common. But Reed didn't just drink, he became something else when drunk, volatile, and confrontational. Stories circulated of pub brawls, outrageous behavior, and incidents that would have ended lesser careers. Directors learned to shoot Reed's scenes early in the day before the drinking began, and to have backup plans for when Reed's behavior made filming impossible. His presence on set carried an electric charge of potential chaos. Yet Reed was also a genuine talent, capable of extraordinary performances in films like Oliver, Women in Love, and The Devils. This made him both valuable and terrifying. You needed him for the quality he brought, but you dreaded what else he might bring. His death in 1999 crystallized his legend. Reed collapsed in a Malta bar during a break from filming Gladiator, having reportedly arm-wrestled sailors and consumed massive quantities of rum. Even in death, he remained what he'd always been, gloriously, terrifyingly uncontrollable. Reed's fearsome quality was the purest form of chaos, a reminder that some stars burn too hot to ever be safely contained. Laurence Olivier. Laurence Olivier wielded fear through perfection. Where others intimidated through volatility or physical menace, Olivier terrified through the sheer, immaculate brilliance of his craft and his withering intolerance for anything less. As actor-manager of the Old Vic and one of cinema's greatest performers in Henry V, Hamlet, and Richard III, Olivier set standards so merciless that colleagues approached him not with affection but with trepidation bordering on dread. Olivier's fearsome quality manifested in his cutting wit and surgical precision in exposing weakness. An unprepared actor facing Olivier in rehearsal experienced something like an academic defense gone wrong. Every weakness in technique, every lazy choice, every moment of unclear intention was identified and dissected with clinical detachment. His standards were impossibly high because he applied them first and most brutally to himself, but that didn't make them any less terrifying to those who fell short. On film sets, Olivier brought the same general's discipline he'd honed in theater. He knew exactly what he wanted from every scene and possessed the technical mastery to achieve it. Directors either deferred to his vision or found themselves in intellectual combat with one of the era's finest minds. Unlike actors who ruled through tantrums, Olivier's power came from being undeniably right. His craft was so superior that arguing with him meant revealing your own inadequacy. Olivier's legacy is fear through excellence, the terror of standards, so high they exposed everyone else's compromises. In Hollywood's pantheon of the feared, he alone inspired dread through sheer, merciless perfection. Hollywood's relationship with power has always been uneasy, a constant negotiation between creative force and commercial control. These 12 actors represented the extremes of that dynamic, stars whose talent or temperament made them genuinely dangerous to the machinery designed to contain them. They were the industry's beautiful nightmares, too valuable to discard but too volatile to fully control. What united them was a refusal to be diminished. Bette Davis wouldn't compromise her standards for anyone's comfort. Robert Mitchum wouldn't pretend to be someone he wasn't. George C. Scott wouldn't participate in ceremonies he considered degrading. Kirk Douglas wouldn't accept injustice, even when fighting it carried enormous risk. Each in their way, insisted on being fully themselves in an industry that demanded pleasant, manageable fictions. Yet their fearsome qualities took radically different forms. Some, like Joan Crawford and Laurence Olivier, terrorized through perfectionism, the tyranny of impossibly high standards applied without mercy. Others, like Errol, Flynn, and Oliver Reed, frightened through chaos, the sense that anything might happen, and probably would. Still others, like Marlon Brando, were ungovernable creative forces whose genius made their volatility something productions simply had to endure. And a few, like Edward G. Robinson, commanded fear through pure presence, an authority so complete that raising one's voice became unnecessary. The studio system both created and was undermined by these figures. The contracts and publicity machinery gave studios enormous power, but the biggest stars learned to reverse that equation. Once you became truly indispensable, fear flowed the other way. Studios needed Crawford's image, Bogart's tough guy authority, Douglas's intensity, Davis's brilliance more than these stars needed any individual studio. That reversal of power created a unique moment in Hollywood history, a brief window when stars could be genuinely dangerous to the industry itself. Today's Hollywood operates under different rules. HR departments, intimacy coordinators, and social media scrutiny have made the kind of on-set tyranny that Davis or Crawford practiced largely impossible. The power dynamics have shifted again, away from individual stars toward franchises and corporate control. Whether this evolution represents progress or loss, or simply change, remains debatable. What's certain is that we're unlikely to see their like again. Stars whose presence could bend an entire production around their will, whose mood could determine a film's fate, whose very name made executives and co-stars alike brace for impact. These 12 weren't merely talented. They were forces of nature, weather systems that swept through Hollywood, leaving transformation in their wake. Some built through destruction, tearing down mediocrity to make room for excellence. Others simply refused to be anything but themselves, and their authenticity was so powerful it became dangerous. A few were genuinely troubled, their demons inseparable from their genius. But all of them were undeniably, unforgettably real in ways that Hollywood's illusion factory couldn't fully manufacture or contain. In a town built on illusion, perhaps the most dangerous thing was to be real. And these stars were nothing if not unforgettable. Their fearsome reputations have outlived their films, becoming legends that tell us as much about Hollywood's nature as about the individuals themselves. They remind us that the industry's golden facade has always concealed something more complicated: genius and ego, brilliance and brutality, art and terror existing in uneasy proximity. They were old Hollywood's titans, revered, resented, and feared in equal measure. And in their fearsome power, they achieved a kind of immortality that mere popularity could never provide.